Three things were on the negotiating table over a span of 10 years. The first was a small search engine built by two Stanford PhD students who needed approximately $1 million to focus on finishing their dissertations. The second was a social network built by a 22-year-old in a hoodie who wanted approximately $1 billion to keep building it. The third was a written acquisition offer from the world's largest software company for $44.6 billion in cash and stock. Three offers. Three doors. The company at the negotiating table for all three deals was the same company. It was called Yahoo. In 2000, at peak, that company was worth approximately $125 billion and was the most visited destination on the consumer internet. In 2016, that company sold its entire operating business to Verizon for approximately $4.83 billion. The search engine, Yahoo, refused for $1 million in 1998, is in 2026 worth approximately $2 trillion. The social network Yahoo refused for $1 billion in 2006 is, today, worth approximately $1.3 trillion. The $44.6 billion offer Microsoft made in 2008, turned down by Yahoo's founder, is, in retrospect, the largest single check ever refused in the history of consumer technology. I'm Mort. I do autopsies on dead empires. Most of the patients on this shelf died from something they did. This one died from something they kept refusing to do. Every fork in the road, Yahoo took the wrong path. Or more precisely, Yahoo refused to take any path at all, and the road eventually ran out. The autopsy of this patient is in many ways the simplest one on the shelf. The patient had every possible chance. The patient had access to all three of the companies that would, between 2000 and 2020, become the most valuable consumer technology empires in the history of the world. The patient said no to all of them. Let's open it up. To understand how a company gets to $125 billion by curating links to other people's websites, you have to remember what the internet was like in 1994. It was an empty room. Almost nobody was on it. The websites that existed were obscure, scattered, and hard to find. There was no Google. There were no good search engines. There was no organized index of where to go. If you were online in 1994, you were lost in a small but rapidly growing labyrinth. And then two graduate students at Stanford University started to build a directory. Jerry Yang and David Fillo, both electrical engineering PhD students, started collecting their favorite websites and organizing them by category. Sports here, news here, music here, shopping over here. They called the project Jerry and David's Guide to the World Wide Web. In April of 1994, they renamed it Yahoo, an acronym that stood, depending on who you asked, for either yet another hierarchically organized oracle, or yet another hierarchical officious oracle. The exclamation point came shortly after. Yahoo, with an exclamation point. The first thing on the internet that felt friendly. Within 12 months, Yahoo was the single most popular destination on the early consumer internet. By 1995, with venture capital from Sequoia Capital, the company had its own headquarters in Sunnyvale, California, and a workforce of full-time engineers. By April 12, 1996, Yahoo was public on the NASDAQ. The stock priced at $13 per share. On the first day of trading, it closed at $33. By the end of 1999, after the dot-com boom had taken hold, Yahoo's stock had reached approximately $475 per share on a split-adjusted basis. The company's market capitalization peaked, in early 2000, at approximately $125 billion. For a brief moment in early 2000, by some measures, Yahoo was the single most valuable internet brand in the world, and the way it had gotten there was in retrospect a slightly accidental thing. Yahoo had become the front page of the consumer internet because when you turned on your computer and dialed in through your modem in 1998, the browser opened to Yahoo. Yahoo was the place where you started. From Yahoo, you went to email, which Yahoo provided. From Yahoo, you went to news, sports, finance, weather, shopping, instant messaging, photos, music, video, fantasy football, personal ads, all of which Yahoo provided. The company's strategy was to be everything for everyone, all the time, on a single front page. It was, for a remarkable 5-year window, the closest thing the consumer internet had ever had to a unified product. And it was during this window, in late 1998, that 2 more Stanford graduate students walked through the doors of the Yahoo headquarters in Sunnyvale, carrying a printout of a research paper. They wanted to talk about something they were calling PageRank. They wanted, ideally, $1 million. Before we watch the next 4 refusals, I need to make one observation about Yahoo that in 1998 would have seemed pedantic, and in 2016 turned out to be the entire autopsy. Yahoo, in its prime, never quite answered a question that every other company on this shelf has been forced to answer at some point. The question is, what are you for? Google was for search. Facebook was for connecting people you knew. Amazon was for buying things online. Microsoft was for the operating system that runs your computer. Apple was for designing beautiful objects. Each of those companies, when asked what they were for, could answer in 3 or 4 words. Yahoo, between 1996 and 2000, would have answered, "We're for everything." And in 1998, when you were the front page of the internet, that answer worked, because the internet itself was for everything. But it turned out that the consumer internet was about to fragment into specialized products that each did one thing better than Yahoo did. And the company that was for everything could not in any of those specialized markets compete with the company that was for that one specific thing. Watch. Let me tell you what Yahoo's strategic argument was. In 1998, for refusing to buy Google for $1 million, Yahoo's business model was based on a single principle: keep the user on Yahoo for as long as possible. Every minute a user spent on Yahoo was a minute that produced advertising revenue. Every page view on a Yahoo property, Yahoo Mail, Yahoo News, Yahoo Sports, was a transaction. Google's entire design philosophy was the precise opposite. Google's mission was to send the user away from Google to the most relevant website on the internet for whatever the user was searching for. The faster a user left Google, the better Google considered the user experience to be. To Yahoo's executives in 1998, who had built their business on keeping users in the portal, Google looked like a competitor that would, by design, send Yahoo's users away from Yahoo's advertising-funded properties. They saw, in other words, a threat. They did not see what Google's search quality would do to web traffic patterns. They did not see what Google's PageRank algorithm would do to the way advertisers spent money. They did not see, in 2 unassuming Stanford PhD students with a research paper, the company that would eventually become worth approximately $2 trillion. The decision to refuse was, by Yahoo's internal logic at the time, completely rational. It was also the most expensive single refusal in the history of consumer technology. 4 years later, in 2002, the situation had changed. Yahoo had a new CEO, Terry Semel, a former co-chairman of Warner Brothers, who had been brought in from Hollywood to bring discipline to Yahoo's strategy. Google was now a fast-growing company valued at approximately $5 billion. Yahoo, having watched Google quietly eat its search traffic lunch over 4 years, decided it needed to acquire Google after all. Terry Semel sat down with Larry Page and Sergey Brin in 2002 and offered approximately $3 billion for the company. Page and Brin wanted approximately $5 billion. Semel refused to raise his offer. The Hollywood-style negotiation walked away. Yahoo would, instead, license search results from Google for several years, which had the practical effect of training a generation of Yahoo users to discover that Google's search quality was better and to start typing google.com directly into their browsers. The lowball had not just lost Yahoo the deal, it had taught Yahoo's own customers how to leave Yahoo. 4 years after that, in 2006, the same pattern repeated with a different company. Mark Zuckerberg, age 22, was running a Harvard then college then public social network called Facebook. Yahoo, watching Facebook accumulate users at a rate Yahoo itself had not seen since 1998, decided to make an offer. The number was $1 billion. Zuckerberg, the documented reporting confirms, was open to the deal. His board was open to the deal. Then Yahoo's stock had a bad quarter. Yahoo's executives reconsidered. They lowered the offer from $1 billion to $850 million. Zuckerberg, age 22, did not flinch. He simply walked out of the room. Facebook, today, is worth approximately $1.3 trillion. The $150 million reduction, the 15% flinch, in 2006 cost Yahoo, in retrospect, somewhere in the range of $1.3 trillion in market capitalization. The autopsy file on this particular refusal has, at this point, only one finding. Yahoo had, in each of these 3 negotiations, the strategic instinct of a buyer who believed the future would discount the price of the asset. The asset, in each case, was not getting cheaper. The asset was getting exponentially more expensive. Yahoo was always 1 quarter behind. The math of always being 1 quarter behind in a growth market is the math of permanent loss. There is, in business strategy, a temperament called the disciplined buyer. The disciplined buyer never overpays. The disciplined buyer waits. The disciplined buyer makes lowball offers and waits for the seller to come back to the table with a more reasonable price. In a deflationary market, in a market where assets are getting cheaper over time, the disciplined buyer wins every time. The patience is rewarded. The lowballer eventually gets the asset for the price they originally offered. This temperament is, in the right market, the most successful negotiating posture there is. Yahoo, between 1998 and 2008, was a disciplined buyer in this exact sense. The trouble is that Yahoo was operating in the precise opposite of a deflationary market. Yahoo was operating in the early commercial internet, where the assets being negotiated for search engines, social networks, online retail were doubling in value every 12 to 18 months. In a market where the asset is doubling every year, the disciplined buyer temperament is not a negotiating advantage. It is, mechanically, the mechanism by which you will permanently lose the asset. Every quarter you wait, the price multiplies. Yahoo waited 4 years between the first Google refusal and the second one. Google's value grew approximately 5,000-fold in those 4 years. There was no longer a number Yahoo could afford to offer that Google would accept. The disciplined buyer had, by being disciplined, become the locked-out buyer. Watch. February of 2008, Yahoo's stock, after Terry Semel's departure and Jerry Yang's return to the CEO role, was trading at approximately $19 per share. The board had been hearing for months that the company's search and advertising business was structurally losing ground to Google. The mobile internet was emerging, and Yahoo had no compelling strategy for it. The company's revenue growth had stalled, and on February 1, 2008, Microsoft Corporation, then under the leadership of CEO Steve Ballmer, publicly announced an unsolicited bid to acquire Yahoo for $44.6 billion, paid in a mix of cash and Microsoft stock. The offer worked out to approximately $31 per share, a 62% premium to Yahoo's closing price the previous day. Jerry Yang, Yahoo's co-founder and now its returning CEO, refused the offer. He said publicly that Yahoo was worth more. By May, Ballmer had reduced his final offer to $33 per share, and Yang had refused that as well. Microsoft walked away on May 3, 2008. By November of that same year, with the global financial crisis intensifying, Yahoo's stock had fallen below $9 per share. The Microsoft offer Yang had refused, in February, was now approximately 3.5 times higher than Yahoo's actual stock price. The shareholders, led by Carl Icahn in a proxy fight, were unhappy. Jerry Yang was forced out of the CEO role in January 2009. And what followed, between 2009 and 2012, was one of the strangest leadership periods in modern Silicon Valley history. The board hired Carol Bartz, a former Autodesk CEO famous for her abrasive style and willingness to use profanity in interviews, to replace Yang. Bartz lasted approximately 2.5 years. She was fired by phone in September 2011 and gave a famously profane interview about her dismissal to Fortune the next day. Her replacement was Scott Thompson, a former president of PayPal who took the role in January 2012. Thompson lasted exactly 4 months. An activist investor named Daniel Loeb discovered in May 2012 that Thompson had fabricated portions of his resume. Specifically, he had claimed a computer science degree from Stonehill College that did not exist. Thompson resigned that month. Yahoo, in 4 years between 2007 and 2012, had been led by 6 different CEOs, or interim CEOs: Terry Semel, Jerry Yang, an interim period, Carol Bartz, an interim period, and Scott Thompson. The company had, by the strict criteria of strategic continuity, no strategy. It had only a carousel of executives, each trying to introduce a new one before being replaced by the next. In July of 2012, the Yahoo board made what they believed would be the company's salvation hire. They hired Marissa Mayer, employee number 20 at Google. The engineer who had designed Google's minimalist homepage, a 40-year-old Silicon Valley superstar with the kind of resume that, in the documented public reporting at the time, was hailed as Yahoo's best chance to bring Google's culture and discipline to the company. Mayer joined Yahoo 7 months pregnant. She took a 2-week maternity leave. She announced sweeping product redesigns and a renewed focus on mobile. She banned all remote work for Yahoo employees in February 2013, a decision that became a national debate on workplace culture. She acquired the blogging platform Tumblr for $1.1 billion in May 2013. And in the same period, the documented reporting later revealed, Yahoo had the option to acquire Netflix for approximately $4 billion. Yahoo chose Tumblr. The board ratified the choice. Marissa Mayer's tenure as Yahoo's CEO lasted from July of 2012 until June of 2017. 5 years. By most metrics, the longest single CEO tenure since Terry Semel's departure 6 years earlier. Her early decisions were widely admired in the business press. The Tumblr acquisition in May of 2013 was presented as a bold play to capture the millennial blogging audience. The promise was that Tumblr would remain independent and that the brand and team would be preserved. By 2015, Yahoo had written down the value of the Tumblr acquisition by $230 million. By 2016, SEC filings indicated Yahoo might write down the entire remaining value. In the same broad period, the documented public reporting confirmed Yahoo had been offered the opportunity to acquire Netflix for approximately $4 billion before the Tumblr deal. Yahoo chose Tumblr. Netflix, today, has a market capitalization exceeding $250 billion. And underneath everything, 2 events were unfolding that would, in different ways, define the rest of the story. The first was the data security catastrophe. In 2014, attackers, later attributed by the Justice Department to Russian-linked operatives, compromised approximately 500 million Yahoo user accounts. Yahoo disclosed this breach to the public in September of 2016, in the middle of the Verizon acquisition negotiations. 3 months later, in December of 2016, Yahoo disclosed a second breach, a separate 2013 attack that had compromised approximately 1 billion accounts. The disclosure was, at the time, the largest data breach in the history of the consumer internet. Then, in October of 2017, after the Verizon deal had closed, Yahoo was forced to disclose that the actual figure was approximately 3 billion accounts, every single Yahoo user account that had ever existed. Verizon, as a direct result of the late-stage breach disclosures, reduced its purchase price by $350 million. The final number, after the breach adjustment, was $4.83 billion. The second event was, in many ways, the strangest and warmest finding I have ever entered onto a file in this morgue. In 2005, Jerry Yang, then still CEO, had personally negotiated and approved a Yahoo investment of $1 billion for approximately 40% of a then-obscure Chinese e-commerce company called Alibaba. The reasoning at the time was straightforward. Yang believed Alibaba's founder, Jack Ma, was building something important in China, and Yahoo wanted strategic exposure to the Chinese internet market. By 2014, when Alibaba went public in the largest IPO in American stock market history, Yahoo's remaining Alibaba stake was worth approximately $31 billion. By 2016, when Verizon was negotiating to buy Yahoo for $4.83 billion, Yahoo's Alibaba stake was worth, by some measures, more than 6 times what Verizon was paying for the entire rest of the company. The post-sale Yahoo entity, renamed Altaba, an investment holding company, distributed the Alibaba stake to Yahoo shareholders over the subsequent years. Jerry Yang, the founder, who had refused Microsoft's $44.6 billion and presided over the decade of decline, had, by accident of one good investment in 2005, made his shareholders most of their money back. So let me record the cause of death. For the file, Yahoo. The operating business did not die because the Internet stopped wanting a front page. The Internet wanted a front page. Yahoo simply, over 20 years, refused to choose which front page it was going to be. Search was offered, in 1998, for $1 million. Yahoo refused. Social was offered in 2006 for $1 billion. Yahoo flinched. Salvation by acquisition was offered in 2008 for $44.6 billion. Yahoo refused. Video streaming was offered in 2013 for $4 billion. Yahoo bought blogging instead. At each fork in the road, Yahoo applied the negotiating temperament of a disciplined buyer in a deflationary market. Wait, lowball, see if the seller comes back. The market was not deflationary. The market was, throughout this entire 2-decade period, the most inflationary market in modern technology history. Yahoo died because, over 2 decades, the company answered the question, "What are you for?" with the answer, "We're still deciding." The deciding never ended. The market's patience for the deciding did. Cause of death? Optionality. Method? The cumulative weight of refused offers compounding across 2 decades. Time of death, June 13, 2017, the day Verizon's acquisition of Yahoo's operating business closed. The body had been kept on life support in a series of CEO offices since approximately 2004. And here is the warm finding for the record, the strangest one I have ever entered. The man who refused the Microsoft $44.6 billion, The man whose decade of careful strategic deliberation managed to lock Yahoo out of search, out of social, and out of streaming, Jerry Yang, is also the man who, in 2005, walked into a meeting with Jack Ma in China and decided, on instinct, to invest $1 billion of Yahoo's cash for 40% of an obscure Chinese e-commerce company that almost nobody outside East Asia had heard of. By 2020, that single investment had returned to Yahoo's shareholders, after dilution and subsequent sales, somewhere in the range of $70 billion in cumulative value, more than 15 times the entire operating business sale price Verizon paid in 2016. The founder whose refusals define the catalog of missed opportunities is also the founder whose single best decision saved most of the shareholder value. He stepped down from Yahoo in 2012, returned to Stanford as a supervisor, and has spent the years since on Asian American philanthropy and venture capital. Jack Ma's Alibaba, the company Yang invested in on instinct, became one of the most valuable companies in the world. Jerry Yang, the strategic decision-maker, died with Yahoo. Jerry Yang, the venture investor, saved the wreckage. Some founders die with their companies. Some founders save the shareholders by accident. Jerry Yang did both. That's another one for the shelf. The next time you are at a negotiating table considering whether to buy something whose value is growing 30% a year, ask yourself a different question than the one Yahoo asked. Yahoo asked, "Is the price too high?" You should ask, "At what point will it be too late?" Because in a growth market, the only number that matters is how many quarters you have before the price multiplies past your reach. The disciplined buyer temperament that wins in deflationary markets is the lockout mechanism in growth markets. The price never comes back down. The asset multiplies. The window closes. By the time you make your final offer, the seller is already gone. If you want to watch the next autopsy, you know where the door is. I'll leave the light on.